Thank you very much for joining the webinar today on cloud security in 2026. I'm Tom Ruffalo, CISA at eSecurity Solutions. Stephen Watkins from Fortinet, a principal cyber security advisor, will be joining me, and together we will attack the topic of how to protect your cloud assets. I will introduce the topic and talk about what cloud security is, what assets need to be protected, and why it's actually important, and then give some detail about each asset area related to the cloud, and then how to protect that. And then Stephen will introduce the topic related to Fortinet's perspective and give an overall point of view of how Fortinet protects cloud security assets. And we're going to talk mostly about remote workers and the need to protect remote workers or protect your company from remote workers. Last one is cloud applications, which we all pretty much use. Smaller companies more than larger companies move to cloud applications. First and foremost, because they're easy and to deploy, easy to use, to maintain. About that, so there's some obvious conclusions about these assets. Number one, these all used to be on-premise. Pretty much, I would say all used to be on-premise because we didn't have a cloud before, right? So that was easier to protect. They are easier to attack because they are spread amongst so many different locations, and frankly, they're all available and accessible through the internet. They're harder to protect because every one of them requires a different type of protection. More attack targets. Well, that's kind of obvious, right? We've got, instead of one, we've got now at least 4, maybe 5. For many companies, they're less protected, especially smaller businesses. If your company doesn't take it seriously and you don't do something specifically to address it, they're clearly less protected. And this new wave of AI attacks, which is coming this year right now, is going to make it worse. So we're taking a static situation that used to be in headquarters, moving it to multiple locations, and now we're adding some additional threats. Let's start by answering some important questions. So the company even care? I mean, this is really the central issue. If a reason to care about it, then it's just intellectual. So why should you care about cloud security? Many companies don't, and that's unfortunate. For one, compliance mandates. So if you are mandated to be compliant, then those regulations keep increasing. We have regulations themselves that you need to be compliant with that ultimately extend to the cloud because your assets are there and you have to protect your assets. If you have partners or customers that are large enterprises or are serious about cybersecurity, they will often require you to be compliant with the same sort of things that they are, which includes cloud data, or they won't buy your products. That happens all the time. We see it all the time. Cyber insurance mandates are increasing, and there are even some companies that will deny policies or spike premium by 20 to 60% if you don't adhere to cloud defenses. Lastly, the attack surfaces are expanding dramatically, and one of the things you'll see from a lot of the cybersecurity companies now, certainly now, is that there are solutions available now that address specifically visibility, compliance with configurations, and looking at attack surfaces. So are your attack surfaces that are now expanding, can you get visibility into that, and can you make sure that they're secure? So if you don't have cloud security, it radically increases your chance of a breach. Serious downtime and fines, all of that stuff is going to be a result of not having great cloud security. These new AI-enabled attacks will compound the chance of attacks, of asset attacks, of anywhere. And the attacks that they're enabling, by the way, are going to be very, very broad. So they're not concentrated in one area. It's looking for all vulnerabilities. Lastly, the cost of the breach might very well be higher than the cost of prevention. We know, and we work with a lot of companies that have had breaches, and what they rapidly find out is that they wish they had done something ahead of time. It's kind of like needing insurance, not having it, and then something bad happens, and then you end up paying to clean it up. And the cost of cleanup is not just the cost of cleanup; it's the downtime of your employees and everything else. It's a very very big deal, and it's something that you need to address. Some general stats. Number one, 80% of companies had cloud security breaches last year. That's an overall statistic for the entire cloud area. Number two, SMBs are targeted 4 times more than large organizations, and smaller organizations are less prepared. We've already talked about that a little bit. The cloud security is a primary concern for many companies, for all companies as a whole. They do have a concern. So, and larger companies trickling down to smaller ones are spending more money on it. Over 51% of organizations plan to increase cloud security in 2026. And lastly, deployment of zero trust. I don't remember exactly where the stat came from, but saved an average of $1 million in breach costs per company. So obviously it's a larger company, but zero trust is something that companies also are finding they need to embrace as a principle across their security. What about overall cloud security vulnerabilities? What can we say about those things? Number one, compromised identities are a big deal. Over 70% of cloud breaches originate from compromised identities. It's a very dominant factor. The global accessibility by design, that's an interesting perspective to take on this, is that by definition, everything that moves to the cloud is global accessibility. Everything is open to the internet. APIs are open to the internet. They're even well documented. And a lot of this stuff is well documented. So it makes it easier for people to get access. It's just naturally obvious that if you take something that is closed to something that's completely open to the internet, you're going to have a lot more problems. Attack surfaces are multiplying. We talked about that. We've got homes, we've got application servers, we've got private and public and private clouds, multiple attack surfaces, and homes aren't very secure. We all know that. Human risks are a big issue. First of all, something we don't talk a lot about is complex configurations. Configuration is roughly 23% of all cloud security incidents directly due to misconfigurations. So that's not having the right expertise, not having the right amount of time, not having the right amount of focus on it, maybe not even having the right amount of visibility. Phishing remained the top threat. We already know that, but it continues to be. That's a method for getting access to your accounts, your access control. Can you control what remote workers do? So there's another thing, especially with remote workers. Can you even control what they do? Even if you control that they can access it, you control what they do afterwards. Shared responsibility in public and private clouds. That's a principle that exists that says that the private public cloud companies, AWS, Google, are responsible for their infrastructure. They are not responsible for your data. So you must treat that as the same as if it was a server in your environment. What do you need to do to protect that? And there are too many unmonitored assets, for sure. Approximately 32% of cloud infrastructure sits idle and is untracked. So that's an exposure that actually an asset manager, somebody that's looking at attack surfaces, can tell that. You also expose things like we have customers, employees that aren't even using it, or maybe don't even work for you anymore, have access to certain things. Cloud applications have issues, and also all security and cloud IT basically needs to be monitored as one overall entity. So on remote worker security, the remote worker risk is high and has increased since work from home. As a given, 61% reported their remote workforce had caused a data breach since widespread shift to remote work from home. Cyber threats have increased. Mixing home and work using the same IT computer systems, sometimes even the same PCs, is inherently a higher risk. And then the question is, do you have people downloading, are your employees downloading data and storing it on their PCs or on remote clouds or on cloud applications that you're not even aware of? Accidental breaches is 3 times higher. The home infrastructure, home routers now represent about 50% of the most exploitable devices on your system, and then 50% of IoT devices in home networks contain critical vulnerabilities. So these are all things that potentially can be attacked. And certainly you would worry about the the ingress and egress points for the network into your home's systems. The threats, some of the biggest threats include credential stealing and social attacks, such as AI-enhanced phishing, info stealing, malware, AI-powered impersonation. Impersonations using AI is a big deal. We already know that can be used for CEO fraud and things like that. Uncontrolled remote users. So this is a big issue. So you have to worry about controlling access. You have to worry about controlling the usage. What can you do with it once you access it? Can you, because what ideally would happen is you would use it in place, store it in place, and you'd be done, right? And only the people that needed to would access it. But if you don't control that properly, it's not configured properly, or using an app that doesn't allow you to do that, then you have data that's leaking out into other areas. And storage, obviously, where you want to be able to control what's stored. Attacks on home PCs is inherently easier, and especially if the home infrastructure is weak, and they will almost all be weaker than they would be if they were in the office. So there are 2 missions and 4 security concerns that companies should be focused on related to securing remote workers. There are 2 missions, right? One of them first is protecting the company. Right? It's really the most important thing, especially if you're an IT person or security person, or you're a company manager. You care about protecting the company's assets from these remote workers who can now have access from anywhere over the internet. And you also want to be able to protect the remote users and their environments, but that's really number 2. There are 4 concerns areas. One, you want to protect corporate servers and data. You want to be able to protect cloud applications and cloud data. You want to protect control over what the users can do and what they can access. So usage and storage by users of the data. And lastly, protect users and personal data, which is, I said, the lowest priority. The solutions that you typically need, and these all things are always customized around your company and what's going on, but obviously endpoint detection and response solutions, SASE solutions around private access. So typically, the ones for home protecting remote workers are called private access solutions. They have zero trust. They have data loss prevention. Firewall as a service. You have a virtual firewall, virtual web gateway, protect them and where they go and what they can do. And then also CASB type solution for controlling access, security around the actual application itself. And then on top of that, you need email security, MFA, PDR, and MDR. Okay, so cloud application security. Also, there are things that we need to know about that, right? So what are the risks? 75% of companies saw a SaaS-related incident in the last 12 months. So SaaS, software as a service application incident. SMBs are at the highest risk because of high usage, high growth rate of their usage of these apps, high credential theft for smaller businesses. So smaller businesses are having higher credential theft growth rates, and low security deployment. Those are major deals around SMB companies and why it's a higher risk for those companies. Because they're using it more, their credentials are being stolen more frequently, and they have less security in general. 55% of SaaS apps in use are shadow IDs. So in a normal company, 65% of the apps that are being used by your employees, you don't know about. And yet, if you don't know about them, that means you're not approved. They're not unsanctioned, what they call unsanctioned. So that's not good. And that's the kind of control you would get with the CASB solution. Misconfiguration is the top cause of breaches for almost all cloud-related solutions. Actually, even the stuff that's not cloud-related, misconfiguration is one of the top vulnerabilities that companies have for all their security. Weak identity and access management provides easy access, and if that's not appropriately configured, that's more of a configuration, but also it could be MFA or zero trust. And lastly, limited visibility. Visibility is becoming a bigger and bigger deal, because it used to be you just needed visibility of your headquarters. Now you need visibility of all your locations, which might even be multiple private clouds, applications, and everything. that needs to all be put under one umbrella. So that's becoming way more important. And also give you information about configurations and whether or not they're compliant or whether or not they're, even high security or low security. Security threats, credential stealing and social attacks. We've talked about those things. That's continues to be one of the top threats. Unauthorized users from stolen credentials, misconfiguration, even old employees that shouldn't even have access. Unauthorized or uncontrolled use of your data. So again, we talked about that a little bit too. It's like, are you and can you control what employees do with the data when they access it? And then shadow apps, use of unsafe shadow applications, or for that matter, any applications that are shadow for the company is something that probably shouldn't be allowed. In terms of solutions, I mean, these are all the kinds of things that we're trying to protect. So, I mean, if there's nothing on this list, in general, there's nothing on this list that doesn't have data that you care about, that you shouldn't care about it, especially when you start looking at payroll, cloud payroll, cloud accounting, and financial bank accounts and things like that. I mean, there's things that you just can't deny need to be controlled very well, and you need to make sure you have some control over that. The types of solutions that you need for this also includes, secure access service edge type solutions that are designed around applications such as CASB, which provides visibility, usage control, data loss prevention, and zero trust. You need MFA with appropriate MFA, and any user configurations have to have roles defined and managed. You have to have secure configurations, which has to, the posture management, which is the term that's being used to look at configurations and provide visibility into that and make sure it's secure, is also an important solution that we're increasingly being provided by security companies across the entire range of security. That backup and disaster recovery becomes even more important as you start moving stuff to the cloud, and then your employees need to be trained. Last area is cloud infrastructure. We're talking about public and private clouds. We have uncontrolled access is a number one risk for public and private clouds. Visibility, again, we've talked about this. There's a common theme here about configuration, managing configurations, getting visibility into it, and monitoring your attack surfaces and managing them. Technical vulnerabilities include VM and workload security, and that your need to protect your data and your workloads. That is not the job of AWS or Azure or Google. And supply chain, tech stacks. I mean, some of the stuff you can't control, but you can determine who you work with and what technology is used, and hopefully they provide you, appropriate solutions that are secure. They're not, you're not downloading things that are inherently have malicious code in them. But there are things you can do to mitigate that, such as backup, disaster recovery, and severe downtime and recovery is one of the big risks that you get. Obviously, if your servers go down, you might bring down a big portion of your company. Threats include identity, which we talked about before. Misconfiguration, also talked about that. Zero-day malware attacks, and again, we're looking at AI-enabled solution attacks this year that will increase those attacks by a lot. And then supply chain, stuff that you can't control as much, but you can determine who you work with and try to make sure you take appropriate precautions, like even waiting to install downloads for a week or two to see if they are malicious. And then unmonitored security is a big issue, and you must monitor your full IT stack and security stack in order to do the job properly. And so solutions is a lot of solutions, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you need to adequately protect your public and private cloud. And if you really look at it, it's a long list, and there's stuff in there that a lot of people there's a lot of companies that don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. They go, well, Azure protecting an AWS, and they're not. And so these are all areas that you need to think about. Doing risk assessments is an area where we can help you. We can do a third-party assessment to determine what your top security gaps are, what the priorities should be in terms of solutions, virtual firewalls, workload protection, MFA for controlling access, SASE, zero trust, and DLP solutions. Zero trust for sure, and then CSPM is Cloud Security Posture Management, which does the things listed here: visibility monitoring, response automation, misconfiguration. Those are all super important things that that we didn't used to even have those solutions, right? Those are new solutions that have been put in place because of the problems that I've talked about, which the need to see what's going on and make sure it's configured properly, and to make sure your attack surfaces are being managed. And then you got backup disaster recovery, and then the disaster recovery monitoring and disaster recovery and monitoring detection and response solutions, such as the SIM, is a very important thing. So the solution that we provide that looks at everything in your overall environment. So what we do as a company, I have one slide on us, and we provide one-stop security for customers, including GRC GRC services, which I'm going to list on the right. I'll list here in a minute. GRC services, risk assessments and risk management, compliance-related solutions, security products from companies like Fortinet that we work closely with, and then managed detection and response and managed security of different individual products. Those all go together to provide you an overall solution that allows you to be compliant, provide best practices, security, or the worst case, basic security. And we work with a lot of different vendors to make that possible. That said, I am going to turn it over to Stephen.
Thank you, Tom. Very well done. Very well done. All right. So I'm going to keep the train going here. I'm basically going to add on to what Tom has shared already. Very good overview of the threats and the risk associated with that. And as Tom was alluding to, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So we're going to talk about some of that ounce today. I'm going to talk about it in the scope of securing cloud assets. But one point Tom was making is, confidentiality, integrity, availability, the pillars or the triad of information security, which we now call cybersecurity. So if we look back and we see the root of that information security, largely what we all work to do is protect data or information assets. And so as we go through, it's going to be important to keep that in mind, because as Tom pointed out, we need to have visibility, not just into what users are doing. We can't see them from afar and say, oh, they're throwing the baseball with one another. We actually have to see what kind of ball they're throwing to really understand that impact. And so we have to see the data that's part of the transaction between user and application, whether that's in a data center or a cloud. And so we'll talk about that today. I'll introduce you, hopefully not introduce you, to be honest, but maybe you've heard of Fortinet SASE. So I want to give you a view of our 3 use cases or predominant use cases. And then if there's time, I want to talk about adjacent business drivers, things that are on top of everybody's mind today. And many of the conversations I'm having with our partners, like eSecurity and our customers and their customers, what those topics are and how they might impact the need for something like a Fortinet SASE solution. And then I'll just kind of wrap up and hand it back to Tom. But let's just jump right in here for a second. We're going to start off with, why are we still talking about SASE? I thought this kind of went away. Thought there was this big boom after the pandemic and everything, and now it's quieting down. We're moving on to other things. Not really. The answer is not really. And 2 primary reasons why I think SASE continues to be on the front end of the conversation is employees are using things like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini. They're interacting with large language models via AI agents, and I would say every at this point, but I know it's not 100%, but there are so many AI-enabled SaaS applications. So as your users, your employees interact with the cloud applications, they're interacting with AI, whether they know it or not. And so data is moving this information directly between users, cloud services, and these AI models. And secondly, zero trust. Zero trust is kind of SASE like, where 5, 6 years ago it was still kind of theoretical. It was a trajectory, but now it's more, instead of a strategy, it's an implementation thing. And so we've got to meet that expectation from cyber insurers or regulators or even boards. Security teams, increasingly, as of late, the past 12, 18 months, are taking on transformation projects that are largely based around zero trust. And transformation includes SASE or SSE technology. And so, where do you fit potentially in this still going to SASE? You see, Gartner pushes this out as far as 2031. That's 6 more years. Oh, bad math, 5 more years. So SMB, are you less than 500 employees? 50% or up to are still going to deploy SASE by the end of 2031. For mid-market, that goes up to potentially 80%, and large enterprise, those that are more what I would call compliance or regulatory centric, up to 90% of those are still going to be deploying SASE or SSE by 2031. But I want to talk about two other things, this slide and the next one. So for starters, there's still a number of point product SSE solutions. And as they grow and as the need becomes more than just an SSE solution, they tend to fall short on promises. And so 3 quick things: simplified management. That's what SSE and SASE has to be about. And because there's integration costs and no flexibility, because they are single point products, it's difficult for them to deliver on these promises when they have to integrate. Secondly is consistent security. When there's reliance upon OEMs or they're outsourcing security capabilities or threat intelligence, it's difficult to ensure that you have consistent security across the entire threat landscape, your infrastructure, your architecture, from soup to nuts. It's difficult to meet that need. You have to apply deep packet inspection. And by that, I mean we have to see the actual data, the information that's being exchanged. And if we don't crack those packets open, we can't really see what's being shared between user and cloud application. And lastly, the on-premise gap. Honestly, SSE is cloud native and it's cloud only. There's no security for east-west traffic at your branches. There's no security for east-west traffic at your data centers. And so there's a big gap there. And lastly, the cost reduction. There's multiple pages of SKUs here and there and this and that. And typically that spawns what we might have become known as, or what might have become known as the SASE renewal battleground. A lot of customers bringing on SASE or SSE solutions early on, during or after the pandemic, who are now coming to that renewal and looking to replace their existing vendor because there's increases and they're simply fatigued from add-ons. So whether that be a new capability, more bandwidth, et cetera, there's constant add-ons and the trickle becomes a flood. And so standalone SSE solutions sometimes are not meeting expectations. And secondly, these just haven't gone away as drivers, challenges, trends, whatever we want to call them. Hybrid work expands the attack surface. Tom mentioned that early on. SaaS sprawl is everywhere. SaaS adoption has been going on for years now, and it continues to go on. But as Tom pointed out, AI has really accelerated the risk around not only SaaS adoption, but also everything. I mean, being able to protect from AI generated attacks is difficult. We need AI to fight AI today. The second thing is complexity. It's increased operational overhead for our teams. Overlapping licenses. What do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. As an advisor, I've worked with many clients who have brought me in to help identify solutions that might be able to solve some business problems for them. And in the process, I've identified that they've actually been paying for these licenses for years. They've just never implemented the technology, and they've had multiple vendors provide bits of technology or bits of solution that overlap with one another. And so costs go up, but the fragmentation of solutions makes the architecture more complex. And of course, there's always an integration tax. When you have vendor after vendor after vendor, you've got to make them all work together. We can't have disparate tools that don't talk. It just doesn't result in the visibility that we need to be able to apply policy and enforcement to the traffic that our users are generating. And thirdly, I won't spend a whole lot of time here, but sovereignty and regulatory pressure. The big one there in the middle, data residency. A lot of organizations are talking about that now, not just organizations here in the United States, but global organizations. We need to keep our data within our infrastructure. How can we do that? So this is Fortinet SASE. And so I want to introduce it by just reading the title up here, the unified platform for securing all users, devices, and applications. And I want to call it unified. We at Fortinet call it unified because it's more than just a single SSE solution. There's a lot of integratedness around and throughout the Fortinet product portfolio, which we tend to call platforms. So if we look to the left here, we can see the connectivity profile is between agent and agentless, all the way to branch and campus. So we cover those remote users, working from home, working from the hotel, wherever they are, all the way to the small branches, to the mid-sized campuses, to large-size headquarters, even the data centers. And then there's the thin edge. What if we just need an access point in a particular location? Can we enjoy the consistent security that SASE can provide? Absolutely. What about FortiExtender for those mobile branches? What about just a hardware agent? We cover all of that. And in the middle here, we can see these are the capabilities, the advanced security capabilities that come along with Fortinet SASE. If you're a Fortinet customer today, or you're familiar with our FortiOS or FortiGate technology, you recognize a lot of this capability is built right in, and there's good reason for that. Fortinet SASE is built on top of FortiOS. It's the same single one operating system across numerous platforms for us. It's AI powered, and it delivers against each of these particular use cases. And we're going to talk about these in just a second. Secure internet access, secure SaaS access, and secure private access, whether that means public cloud or private cloud. So let's jump into that. Let me point out, Fortinet SASE is more, again, than just an SSE solution. It has centralized policy management and that seamless user experience. And the way that we do that is by making ourselves, our solutions, available across a broad swath of edges. We'll call it edges. So whether that's the agent, and again, it's our FortiClient agent, or agentless with IoT. Maybe you have Internet of Things technology. Maybe you have guest networks or bring your own device type approach with your employees. Again, maybe it's a thin edge. Maybe it's a third party, whether that's an SD-WAN solution or just a simple router at the edge. Or maybe it's a secure SD branch where we have SD-WAN, FortiGate technology, FortiSwitch, FortiAP. We've got the entire kit and caboodle secured with Fortinet technology, but we want to draw that in to our remote user base and allow them to come in and leverage it. So all of these deployment options are there. There's not one that we really don't take care of. Okay, so now on to secure internet access. Why do we need that? What is the driver here? And we need to secure the entire attack surface. Tom mentioned that. It's making things uh, visible to us, number one, and allowing us to have control over them just like we used to when they were behind perimeter protections. So how do we do that at Fortinet? We expand the visibility and control by bringing the edge into FortiSASE, and that would be the user edge here. We apply consistent policy and advanced threat protection capabilities to all the application flows. And these controls include capabilities like CASB. These are going to be familiar from what Tom just mentioned, and I'm sure you're familiar because everybody mentions them. DLP, intrusion prevention, content filtering, not only for web, but also for DNS and files, and inspecting that content with sandbox technology, all without compromising the speed of business. We have more than 190 POPs globally, and so users don't have to hairpin back to just a few limited locations. And this all comes with a simple licensing approach: standard, advanced, or comprehensive. Advanced threat protection is the same throughout all three of those licenses. Things like digital experience monitoring, they come with the advanced and the comprehensive, but the basic capability is available across all three. So secure internet access allows you to deliver that consistent security policy and enforcement for any user, any device, to any destination. What about SaaS? Sure, that's included in the internet, but we also have to think about it from a utilization perspective. We are exchanging critical business data between our users and our SaaS partners. And so we need corporate confidentiality and compliance. Again, about visibility and control into more than 5,000 applications with FortiGate and FortiSASE. Granular inspection and interaction allows us to manipulate and to account for all SaaS transactions, helping us discern those sanctioned from unsanctioned apps that Tom mentioned. Examining the payload, what we call the payload, to ensure that data in motion meets corporate policy. It prevents it from escaping into somebody else's hands, so to speak. It allows us to leverage data at rest protections to identify exposure and risky user behavior. It allows us to apply the same advanced threat protection directly to those SaaS workflows. So I also want to mention here, we talked about FortiClient being our agent for FortiSASE, but it's more than just a connectivity tool. It's actually a full endpoint protection platform, and no matter which license you have access to all those endpoint protection features, including vulnerability assessment, being able to provide posture management for your endpoints. So secure SaaS access gives you the ability to have comprehensive vision and control for the entire SaaS ecosystem. And our last one here is secure private access. Business productivity is key, and no business wants cybersecurity that slows the pace down. Everybody wants cybersecurity without compromise. And that's what we do here at Fortinet. It's our unified, cohesive approach based on that same single firmware, FortiOS, that reduces platform friction and maintains your speed of business. And how do we do that? We protect your cloud apps, which is really protecting the cloud data, and the rest of your infrastructure, whether that be data centers, private cloud, public cloud, everything with our unified SASE platform. It's just part of our convergence of networking and security that will help FortiSASE securely and expeditiously get your users through it to the applications that they need, all with zero trust principles attached to those workflows. Multi-contextual identity, dynamic authorization profiles, and time-sensitive posture assessment. So if posture changes, within 60 seconds, authorization profiles change too. I also want to mention that FortiGate comes with SD-WAN bundles, and those bundles now include FortiSASE licensing for a number of users, depending on the size of the FortiGate. It could be 5, 10, or 50 users, or 100. So an SD-WAN bundle, if you have Fortinet SD-WAN already, or you're looking to get that, you can get the bundle and automatically receive some of those SASE licenses. So SPA, or Secure Private Access, boosts that productivity by tying together FortiSASE and your SD-WAN overlay networks, providing the fastest path to private applications. It doesn't matter where your users are coming from or where those applications are hosted. Okay, one quick mention. It doesn't matter where your workloads are, where your users are, anything. Fortinet has a firewall platform that meets all those specific use cases. So on the left side, you see some of our more traditional hardware platforms that go for DC segmentation. So your data center segmenting out that security between VLANs and goodness, I just lost my train of thought there. But also perimeter firewalls for the same data centers. Hyperscale, yes, hyperscale. We are a performance machine. We generate and build our own ASICs processors, and our security at speed is incredible. We'd love to share more with you. Distributed firewalls, OT, operational technology. But we also do the same thing for the cloud, native to AWS, Azure, and GCP, but also in a virtual platform. So put it in whatever cloud you want. Private cloud, public cloud, doesn't matter. All of these provide the additional security that you need to be part of a unified SASE platform to ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability across your entire environment. So turn security into a business enabler. Use FortiSASE to be able to have those conversations and point out you've reduced hybrid work risk. Make yourself the hero in the conversation with your leadership team. Help them understand how you have improved experience for your users and their productivity. Help them understand how you have enabled your company for future growth while reducing complexity. And lastly, show them how you have made your company more efficient, your security operations teams more efficient, and have even reduced vendors, which means cost savings. I wanted to include a couple things in here, 2 slides. One is keywords and triggers, and 2 is 5 questions. But I don't want to cover each one of these. I just want you to see if any of these pop up in your day-to-day conversations, if you overhear colleagues, your leadership, or your teams mentioning any of these, SASE is the right conversation to be having. We're moving cloud workloads. We need better visibility. Zero trust. Hey, we need zero trust. What about from your ops team? Do you hear, we've got too many tools? We're drowning in monitoring. Can't even monitor everything we have today. And what about the board? Are they talking about cyber risk and compliance? All those are good keywords and triggers for SASE conversations. So 5 questions. How are users accessing applications today? These are good questions to ask yourself, or ask your colleagues, your leadership, or your teams. And this is me. Number 2 is me today. I'm at home right now. Later on, I'll be at the airport. And then after that, I'll be at the hotel. And tomorrow, I'll be at one of our Fortinet branch offices. Is my security posture going to change because of where I am? It's a great question. What percentage of our applications are now SaaS or cloud hosted? Not a question everybody answers readily, but a great question to ask yourself, especially if you're a leader. How much of your traffic is actually going out into the cloud? And where are your teams spending time? Where might you be able to make things more efficient? And that leads to the last question. We ask this at Fortinet. I ask it all the time to our partners, their customers. If we could eliminate one security or networking platform tomorrow, which one would it be? If we could eliminate, because of the convergence of networking and security that Fortinet provides through our platforms, which would it be? So here are those adjacent conversations. I'll just spend 30 seconds here. AI, we know AI is accelerating threats immensely, immensely. We know AI is also battling threats. And so we look at it today and it's AI against AI. They're using AI on the adversarial side, and we're using AI on the defense and detection response side. What about zero trust? SASE is one of the most practical ways to operationalize that strategy. If you haven't begun that journey today, we can help you with that journey by implementing Fortinet SASE. Tom and his team can help you do that. He showed you that slide where they slide those services in and bring in products or solutions like Fortinet SASE to be able to operationalize a zero trust strategy. And then thirdly, the quantum horizon. I'll mention this briefly because it could be a 60-minute conversation all in itself, but long life data. So highly regulated industries, but those who have long life data are already behind a power curve if you're not working toward quantum ready cryptography or quantum resilient cryptography. Either way, it's something that we need to talk about, and Fortinet SASE can help with that journey as well. So cloud security, we got to secure those remote workers. We got to govern that application utilization, and we must gain visibility and control. We can do that with Fortinet SASE. It's one vendor, it's one OS, and it's one SKU. Because SSE is just not enough. There's too many gaps. And so allow us, Fortinet SASE, to help you focus on your business by providing for those gaps. And lastly, think about those drivers. Let AI become the straw that broke the camel's back. Get that additional momentum you need for a SASE solution. Accelerate your zero trust journey or become quantum ready through that transformation project. So Tom, I appreciate it. I'm going to kick it back to you. And
what I wanted to do is get some concluding comments here. Say, number one, we're here to help you. I mean, that's what eSecurity Solutions does. We're here to help you figure out what the right path is. If you have an interest in something, don't know how to get there, we can align you with the right solution at the right price point to achieve your objectives. Let us help you make a business case for something internally if you believe in it, but your management isn't convinced yet. Let us help you find the right solution at the right price point. There's a lot of stuff that we can do. There are a ton of solutions in security overall, and not all of them fit every company, but we work with large and small companies, and so we're very much in tune with your needs and can probably have a good solution that would match with your requirements. So I would say that all companies need to have cloud security. It's as essential as headquarters security was, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. At this point, it is part of your core. It should be part of your core. If you don't have it, you need to figure out how to get going on that. And we're here to help you do that. We can help you with the overall process of understanding your goals and your needs, and helping you assess the risk and defining a path, and then defining the right solutions, and then helping you get that done. We can do it with services and products. And we really appreciate your attending. But overall, we want to help you solve your security needs and make your life easy. So be a one-stop shop for all of that. And thanks for attending, and we look forward to talking to you soon.